Think canal cruising is slow and easy? Get it wrong in a lock and you could wreck your boat. Also, find out how Ellie becomes man overboard with the most embarrassing situation. In this video, we're breaking down everything you need to know for canal cruising, how locks really work, and what you need to do to work the locks. We'll show you how to manage your lines going up and down, how to stop your yacht smashing into the lock walls, and simple maneuvers that let you spin the boat in tight marinas, even without a bow thruster. Plus, mooring rules, canal right-of-way, commercial traffic, paperwork, long stay visa options, and insurance, and the mistakes that catch people out. If you're thinking about cruising the canals, watch this first. It might save your boat and your season. And make sure you watch to the end to learn from our mistakes about falling overboard. So, kick off your shoes and come barefoot with us. So here's a list of all the issues we're going to cover in this video, which gives amazing detail about everything you need to know to successfully cruise the canals without making the mistakes that we did. So let's get into it.
Locks have the obvious gates that you can see at each end of the lock, but within those gates they also have separately operated sluice gates that allow the water to flow in or out of the lock. So if you look at a boat going uphill, if the canal is already full, the sluice gates have to be opened until the water drains out, and then the big gates can be opened to let the boat in. The sluice gates at the upper end of the lock can then be opened to refill the lock. The gates are opened and the boat drives out. For a boat going downstream, obviously the lock is filled, the upper gates are open, the boat drives in, the upper gates are closed, and then the sluice gates are opened to allow the water to flow out downhill. When all the water is out, the gates are opened and the boat just drives out. So the key here is to understand that the sluice gates are the key to letting the water flow in or out to fill or empty the lock going either way. Over the years, more and more of the locks are becoming automated, so they are activated either by an eclusier or by you pulling a lever or some kind of mechanism to start the process. Also some areas that are worked electronically with a control box that you are given by the eclusiers. This usually works a series of locks that also have light signals to tell you at what status the canal is on and when you can go in. That's it.
Oh, we have a green one.
Okay, we're clear. So as you're going into a lock, if it's a lock that you have to activate yourself, you should pay attention to where the activation levers are, and you can see on the left hand side a pole with a sort of grey top to it, and coming out of that are actually two usually solid bars. One is red and one is green or blue. The red one is the emergency stop and the other one is the one you use to activate as soon as you get in the lock to get the lock to start going. You're going. So we go in there, we'll pull the activation cord. That will open the sluice gates, the water will go down, and then automatically the gates will open.
Opening!
Oh, opening, there you go. So interestingly, this is often what you get. There are no bollards on this side apart from one in the middle there and one at the end. And on this side there are some bollards.
They're tied on.
Oh, there is a slidey pole. Hard to pull. Brute force and ignorance. So obviously the back of the boat you can climb up onto the lock walls really easily. As you're going down, we've got a slidey rope here, which means we don't have to change it at all, which is really good. So it's just tied on fairly loose. But one of the really important things when you're going down, if you say, for example, we tied a rope to the bollard and we're holding it, don't ever put too many twists around your bollard, otherwise it can jam. Just one turn and then you can hold the rope loosely with your hand and let it out. If the rope jams as you're going down, the boat just keeps on going down until the rope breaks or you've got to cut it. So that's the one thing that you have to be careful of. The one thing. Oh, there we go. Evidence of a cut rope. Jammed as the boat was going down on a few extra twists, which is sad. So all these automatic locks are extremely easy and need no input from you. However, when you do get to the manual locks, our view is that it is much better to help the eclusier do the manual works on the lock while taking direction from him. If you're not sure what to do, just ask the eclusier. They will be more than happy to show you what to do. Guys, we are now in the Nivernais Canal, but you will notice this is a smaller canal than the main ones, and you can see we are now back to manual winches and manual gates and manual sluices. So when we came in, the lockkeeper came and started winding that one, so I ran and helped him with that one to save him having to walk all the way around. And now we have Evie helping the man open the gates on that side, because it does speed the whole process up enormously, because if you don't help him, The guy's got to walk from there all the way around the back, all the way over that bridge, and then back to the front of that bridge. And of course, not only does that delay him, but it's a lot of... Eva was just trying to work out which way to wind the winch. So we have been attached with only one rope. Crew member jumps on where it's easy. Detaching rear rope, captain. Flick it off.
Can't say that.
Okay, off you go. We've come through this lock with our shade up because there was no bridges. There was no bridges over this lock. We could keep it up all the way. But now we're starting to motor forward. About 300 yards ahead is a bridge, and undoubtedly we'll need to take it down. So it's a blistering hot day today. We keep the cover up as much as we can, even though Andy loves the sun. Andy is the only Australian person who loves the sun still, isn't he? And he's a doctor. What is that?
Emergency doctor, not skin doctor. We're starting to get these bloody arched bridges.
Yeah. Not only are these arched bridges low at the top and really tricky with any side deck prominences you may have, but they're also very narrow at the waterline. So they do actually take a bit of concentration to go through, and you have to line your boat up nicely to avoid dinging the edges. One other thing to mention is that on the very big locks down the big rivers like the Rhone, it is compulsory to wear life jackets while you are transiting, and you also contact the Ecclesia by VHF radio. But you will find all this information on the navigation books, which you will be using anyway. These really big locks also have floating bollards, so you just tie up to them and the bollards float up and down with the boat, so there is no active line handling at all. So even though these are absolutely enormous locks, they are very, very easy to take your boat through. So now let's give you the basics of how to manage your boat in the locks. The usual setup is to use two lines, one at the bow and one at the stern, and then you ease these off or you tighten these up if the boat is going up or down. It is possible to use one central line from the middle of your boat, especially if the side of your boat is very straight or barge shaped, because this doesn't allow very much rotation anyway, so the edge of your lock will hold you stable. So here we are in the lock and we are going up, although the principle is the same, going up or down. On some of the locks you have these sliding poles, so that you simply put your rope around the back of the sliding pole, make it short but not too short, so there's a little bit of give as you slide up, and you don't have to adjust your ropes at all. So the only thing with these ones is you just need to make sure that the rope doesn't catch sometimes at the very bottom where there's a flat section. If the rope catches under that, you need to make sure it unclips from that and comes up, and then as it's coming up, just make sure it slides easily and doesn't jam on a rough bit of lock wall or something like that. But usually you can see how they've got nice metal flanges here, so the ropes slide up and they don't chafe either, so that's good. Nice smooth steel shaft for going up, and you can see how we've got it short. This means we only have to use one line here in the middle of the boat. You see we are in the middle of the boat, and there's the bow, and the boat basically either pushes in that way, but the bow stops it, or pushes in the other way and the stern stops it. This absolutely doesn't work if you have a yacht, especially with a mast on board, because that sticks out beyond the boat, and the circular shape of a yacht's side decks will tend to make you rotate, and the mast may hit the lock wall, which is going to damage your mast. Remember, rising up in the locks is a lot more turbulent, so it takes a lot more work at keeping your boat stable than going down, where it's very peaceful and the water just runs out. Also remember that there is more turbulence at the front end of the lock, or the uphill side of the lock. So if you do have the choice, tie up towards the rear of the lock. As you go into the locks, you will have to tie up to bollards, and the Ecclesias are not always there. So that's where we had to throw the rope up from down here, up over that bollard there. So if the locks are deep and you're not going to be able to throw your ropes over the bollards, then you need to drop a person off before you go into the lock, so you can throw them the lines and they can tie you off. Learning how to throw the ropes and loop at the same time while keeping the end is a particular skill that is really good to learn in the canals, because it also helps you when you get back out onto your seagoing boats. Here is Andy showing you how that is done with a very successful loop over a bollard, and then he casually walks back and ties the rope off. On some of the very deep canals, they do drop down ropes with hooks for the Ecclesia to pull your mooring line back up. But this is where being able to throw ropes very effectively becomes a very important skill. And here I am throwing the rope several meters up to the top of the lock just to make sure that I could do it. So in general terms, when you're going up, you start off with the boat low and the ground high, so your ropes are long. As you go up, the ropes shorten. So you generally have to pull up the slack and take it off. But when you're going up, there's lots and lots of turbulence, so I would always put a couple of twists and lock it off if I'm not paying attention to it. You can see the water is now almost at the level of the outside water, and when it knows it's full and it's automatic, there's a bleeping noise and the gates will open. Mooring the boat. We have said that you can moor your boat almost anywhere in the canals, and the places you need to avoid are close to bridges and bends in the canal, or places where the canal gets very narrow. So this is very logical stuff. Pay attention, make sure other boats can pass you easily, and you will have no trouble. When you are tying up to designated mooring spots, if there is no signage or obvious port office, it is probably free, but you can always ask people moored in other boats or locals that seem to be aware of the local situation. Tricks with manoeuvring canal boats. The thing that is significant about canal boats is that they usually have flat bottoms because the canals are very shallow, so they tend to slide sideways much more than ocean-going boats. So if you turn to the left or to port, your stern will probably head off and go away to the right or the starboard. So as you're approaching locks, narrow canals, or passing other boats, you need to be aware of this and make the correction early. There is a trick of how to get a boat out of a very tight mooring where boats are moored back to back with very little space using a spring line. Driving the boat forwards on the spring line will swing your stern out to clear water, or the other way, you can reverse onto a spring line and that will swing your bow out into clear water, and then you just motor forward. You can also use the spring line process to completely change the boat, especially in a very narrow canal where your boat only just has enough width to do the rotation. You can also rotate your boat very effectively without a bow thruster by having the rudder hard over to one side, blast in forward and reverse progressively, which will kick the boat sideways, and the reverse stops the boat from moving forward. And if you do this continuously, the boat will do a complete circle. These are really useful techniques to use, especially if you don't have a bow thruster, but you need to know this in case your bow thruster breaks, which happened to us. Rules of the road. At the locks, first come gets served first, although the proviso for that is if there is a large commercial barge coming up your rear, you should give way to that and let them in first, and you then get to use the lock if there's enough space. We've said before that you only can go 5 knots in the canals and create no wake, and also you should slow down when passing other boats when they are tied up alongside. Important bureaucratic processes. When you buy a canal boat, it will be registered in your name, and it's usually easiest to keep it with the local registration to allow easy selling down the track. Wherever you have moored your boat, we'll give you a letter as evidence of that being your address, and this will allow you to register the boat as well as create a bank account and also an address to get a local SIM card. The local SIM cards are really useful because they only cost 20 euros per month, and that gives you 100 gigs of data, which is far better than any online process from ELI or Holo5. These SIM cards are also valid all over Europe and give you excellent coverage. The next thing are the registrations and certification that you personally need, and so you need to do the online 70 course, which is provided by the RYA, and you also need to get an International Certificate of Competence, which is a half-day training and certification process run by the RYA as well. Boat insurance is very easy and doesn't cost very much, and for a $50,000 boat, we were paying less than 1,000 euros per year. The other thing that is very handy is to get a long-term visa if you're a non-European, otherwise you will only get 90 days stay in any 180-day period. Using your marina as your address in France, you have to make the application in your own country, provide proof of income and financial independence, as well as have medical cover or travel insurance, and that will get you the 12-month visa. If you do choose to make this a long-term visa, there will also be medicals required in the first year. Dangers in the canals. The standing joke is, if you're asked what do you do if you have a man overboard in the canals, the answer is you just stand up and walk out, because the canals are so shallow. However, after 7 years and many more years of sailing at sea and never having been overboard at all, on Elizabeth's first day back on the water in the canals, she fell in very embarrassingly, and here is the story. Okay guys, so earlier today we had a very interesting situation. We were in a lock. There was a lock wall right beside us. Ellie was on the bow doing something or other. This is a reenactment, and we apologise for bad acting.
I was on my phone to my sister and I was showing her the lock, and then we lost connection. So I thought, oh, I'm too far away from John's phone, which I'd hotspotted. So I quickly stepped here because the wall was right there, lock wall. And I put my hand on the side, what I thought was the side of the boat, but in actual fact it was the pot plant, not here. So I put my hand there to step down, and as I stepped down like that, the pot plant tipped. I saw the pot plant tipping, and I pushed the pot plant back, and as I pushed the pot plant back, I fell over towards the wall. Now, I was in the middle of pushing the pot plant back, falling towards the wall, couldn't push the wall because I had the phone in my hand, and I tried to kind of elbow the wall out, you know, like wedge myself between the wall, and this hand was kind of doing these ones. Then I fell about here, and there was nothing to grab onto because it was the window there. Nothing to grab onto.
So you are heading...
So I'm heading sideways like this. Couldn't quite touch the wall. I thought, nope, I'm not going in, but I knew I was going in. But I put the phone up like this, and I plopped into the water, and I looked up, and my phone was out of the water, and my arm was upstretched like that, so I was this far under the water. My head was this far under the water.
And you opened your eyes?
I opened my eyes to see where the boat was, because, you know, it's quite dangerous. You could fall and then get wedged between the wall and the boat, right? So then I came up, the phone's still in my hand, and I'm yelling out. It was a big splash. The ecclesiaire, which is a lock keeper, was standing up there, watched the whole thing, and was a bit panicky. He was going to stop the gates from closing or opening or whatever, you know, and he started to panic because he didn't know whether I could swim or not. I'm saying, honey, and John's saying, honey, look around, there's the stairs. So there's like a ladder that goes up the wall, and it's really manky and really disgusting. But anyway, I passed him the phone.
Let's get priorities right here. So I saved the phone, first of all. Then I pointed Elizabeth to the ladder to step up, and then she climbed up the ladder.
And then I climbed up the ladder, which at that stage it was still, we're probably still maybe 3 meters to the top, so we're still in between the wall. And as I'm looking up, I looked at the ecclesiaire, which is the lock keeper, and he just gave me the stink eye. Just went, like, he was just not impressed with me at all, and I was absolutely dripping wet. Could be crushed by the boat against the wall, could be
sucked under by the turbulence.
I could have, if the motor had been on, which I'm not sure whether it was or not.
Well, it was in neutral. So you could also be sucked back towards the lock gates at the back and crushed by the lock gates. So
yeah. So just for the record, we cruised on the canal for years and years. I have never fallen off the boat. I've never even come close to falling off the boat. But that just goes to show.
Here we have Elizabeth falling into the water in
a lock.
Dead calm water, in a lock, certainly a bit greasy and slimy.
But
so the handhold didn't work, and she tumbled in the water.
But I didn't look where I'd put my hand. See, that's the mistake. I should have looked, concentrating on getting down fast to get connection back. But talk about priorities. But anyway, that's a lesson again to all of us, that you've got to be careful. No matter how casual everything is, you can't be complacent. So we hope you've enjoyed this so far and got value. Hit the subscribe button if you already haven't, and like and hit the notification button as well, because we don't want you to miss out on all the great things we have coming up. As always, thank you to our wonderful Patreons that help support our charity TUFMINDS, that are helping people and saving lives from suicide every single day. Share it with those friends, especially the ones that say, one day when I can afford it, because truthfully, they probably already can. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye from us.
All the best, guys.